The Academy of Unified Species was a monument to galactic progress. A vast orbital structure gleaming above the violet clouds of Xylon Prime. From its glass corridors, one could see entire continents shimmering beneath the storms. The Academy stood as the pinnacle of learning, a place where the brightest minds of 100 civilizations gathered to study, compete, and one day lead their empires. Into this arena of intellect and pride came a single anomaly, Taran Holt, a human from a barely acknowledged planet called Earth. Most students didn't even know where Earth was located. The Galactic Database described it merely as Class 12 Death World, population volatile, environment unstable. To the other students, that made him a curiosity at best, an underdeveloped savage at worst. Among those who viewed him that way was Lyra Vile, heir to the Vorthian matriarchate. The Vorthians were tall, crystalline-skinned beings whose every movement shimmered like refracted light. They were psionically gifted, aristocratic, and proud. Lyra had been raised to believe in superiority. Her people's destiny to lead the galaxy's intellectual frontier. When she first saw Taran walking into class, average height, plain features, wearing the standard issue grey uniform with rolled sleeves, she could hardly believe it. A primitive in the academy, she found it insulting, and when he sat quietly in the back row, speaking to no one, that irritation grew into amusement. So, the mockery began. Careful. Human, she said one morning as Taran carried his datapad and a handful of physical notebooks. Those might be too heavy for your primitive muscles. Should I ask maintenance to get you a stone tablet instead? Her words dripped with sugar-coated cruelty. Around them, several students chuckled. Members of different races, who all took pleasure in watching the outlier be reminded of his place. Taran simply looked up at her with calm brown eyes. "Stone tablets worked for us once," he said quietly. "We still remember what we wrote on them." There was no anger in his tone, only a strange, patient calm. Lyra found that unsettling. Most who faced her either shrank away or tried to appease her. This one did neither. His lack of reaction robbed her insults of satisfaction. Over the following weeks, she kept testing him. Subtle jabs, veiled remarks, open laughter when he mispronounced a word in Vorthian or failed to use the neural interface like the others. He never responded in kind. He simply watched. Sometimes, she caught him observing the class with a distant focus, as though his mind was measuring everyone, not out of arrogance but habit. Once, during a laboratory session on adaptive materials, she deliberately switched their sample codes, thinking it would ruin his work. To her irritation, Taran noticed immediately and fixed it without a word. Later, when the instructor graded the results, his experiment outperformed hers. "How?" she asked aloud, unable to stop herself. "You don't even have psionic calibration." Taran only smiled faintly. "We learn fast." The class laughed again, thinking him self-deprecating. But Lyra caught something in his eyes. A flicker of quiet confidence that felt older than he should have been capable of. That evening, she mentioned it to her dorm mate, a scaled being from the Vesk Dominion. "He's odd," Lyra admitted. "He doesn't react, doesn't break. It's like nothing touches him. Maybe he's too dull to understand mockery." The Vesk hissed, flicking her tail dismissively. Lyra nodded, but the thought lingered. There was something about the human's stillness that didn't fit with the stereotype she'd been taught. Humans, according to her cultural briefings, were impulsive, emotional, even barbaric. Yet Taran was the picture of composure, the kind that made others uncomfortable without even trying. One day, during planetary theory class, their instructor asked everyone to describe the climate evolution of their homeworlds. When it was Taran's turn, he stood and spoke with a simple authority that silenced even the habitual talkers. "Earth's environment," he began, "is dangerous. Too hot, too cold, too wet, too dry. We have creatures that hunt us, diseases that try to erase us, and storms that flatten entire cities. But we adapted. We always adapt." He paused, meeting Lyra's gaze. "Maybe that's why we're here." Something in that quiet statement made her heart quicken. It wasn't a boast, yet it carried a weight none of her words ever could. After class, as she watched him walk away, Lyra told herself that she mocked him because he was weak, insignificant. But deep down, a small irritating doubt began to whisper. A question she couldn't silence. What kind of species survives a world like that and still looks this calm? The annual strategic combat simulation was the pride of the academy. Every cadet, regardless of species, trained for months to prove their intellect, leadership, and tactical genius in this single event. Victors often caught the attention of military councils and planetary governments. For the rest of their careers, their rank would forever bear the mark of their performance here. Lyra Vile had already decided she would win. She'd spent sleepless nights perfecting her plan, combining Vorthian psionic network theory with predictive AI combat models. Her fleet formations were mathematically flawless, her energy distribution systems impenetrable. The simulation's judges, composed of retired admirals and tacticians, had whispered her name for weeks as the likely champion. But when she saw Terran Holt's name on the participation list, she smirked. "A pity," she said to him in the prep room. "You'll only embarrass yourself. Do humans even have fleets?" He looked up from his datapad, unbothered. "Once. We stopped needing them." Lyra frowned at the odd phrasing. "Stopped needing them?" He just smiled. "You'll see." The first round began in a vast hollow chamber, its walls projecting a living 3D battlefield. Each cadet stood at their command podium, manipulating data streams and digital star maps through neural interfaces. Ships, energy lines, and sensor data shimmered before them, like living light. Lyra's mind flowed effortlessly into the network. She directed her simulated fleet like a conductor leading a symphony. Predictive fire arcs, stealth ships in flanking formation, planetary shield rotations optimized by her psionic link. Her every move was art, her every command timed to perfection. Meanwhile, she occasionally glanced at Terran. He wasn't using a neural link. No AI interface, no holographic assistance, just a flat, old-fashioned stylus and paper notebook. The other students whispered. Even the judges exchanged curious looks. "Are you taking notes, human?" Lyra taunted. "Or sketching your defeat?" He didn't reply. His eyes were locked on the star map, analyzing quietly. He wasn't rushing like the others. In fact, for the first half of the simulation, it looked like he was doing nothing. The opposing fleet advanced, an overwhelming force of drone carriers and assault cruisers. The other cadets scrambled to defend their planets, raising energy shields and launching interceptors. Terran's map remained motionless. Lyra sighed. "Pathetic," she muttered. "He's frozen." Then, halfway through the simulation, everything changed. The enemy's scanners suddenly flickered. Their communications glitched. Their own drones turned against them. Defensive satellites began firing on their allies. Within seconds, the enemy formation dissolved into chaos. The judges gasped as the system displayed a single phrase across the battlefield map. "Total tactical overrun. Human victory." Lyra's jaw dropped. What did you do?" she demanded. Terran finally looked up. "I let them see what they wanted to see. Then I made them believe it was real. You used deception," she accused, as if it were an insult. He shrugged. "We call it strategy." For the first time, the other students didn't laugh at him. They stared, half curious, half wary. Even the judges murmured among themselves, analyzing the brilliance of his approach. Instead of matching the enemy strength for strength, Terran had exploited the simulation's predictive algorithms, feeding false telemetry data into their sensors until the enemy literally defeated itself. As the holograms faded and the round ended, the scoreboard confirmed it. Terran Holt, perfect score. Lyra stormed out of the chamber, furious. The humiliation burned through her veins. She'd spent weeks perfecting her plan. And a human who didn't even use modern tech had beaten her effortlessly. That night, she couldn't sleep. Anger gave way to something far more dangerous. Curiosity. She opened her datapad and searched Earth in the galactic archives. The result shocked her. Restricted access, historical quarantine. Frowning, she dug deeper through old forums, colonial records, even blacklisted data caches. The more she read, the more her disbelief grew. Earth, Class 12, Death World. Native species demonstrates extreme environmental adaptability, multiple instances of self-inflicted global catastrophes, followed by rapid recovery. 1. Report from a long-ago exploration probe described primitive humans surviving in environments that would kill most galactic species in hours. Freezing tundras, deserts of glass, oceans of acid rain. Lyra sat back, her crystalline skin faintly glowing with anxiety. Impossible, she thought. Yet, when she remembered Terran's calm eyes, his steady voice, and the effortless precision of his victory, it all started to make sense. Maybe he hadn't outsmarted the simulation through luck or deceit. Maybe he was simply applying something that every human carried in their blood. A knowledge older than any star empire. The ability to survive, to adapt, to win, even when you shouldn't. For the first time, Lyra didn't feel like laughing at him. She felt the prickling unease of realizing she might be sitting beside something her species had. The Unified Trials arrived like a storm. Every year, the Academy of Unified Species transformed from a place of lectures and theory into a crucible of survival. The trials weren't fought with fleets or strategies, but with muscle, instinct, and mental endurance. It was the event that separated scholars from warriors. Lyra Vale had dominated the trials the previous year. Her crystalline physiology gave her superior strength and resistance to most environments. She could outlast nearly anyone, except perhaps the reptilian Crass or the insectoid Myrrh. When she saw Terran Holt's name listed among the participants, she laughed aloud. A human in the trials. She scoffed to her friend. Does he plan to charm the predators to death? Even the instructors smiled at the absurdity. No human had ever passed the first round. Their fragile biology and weak musculature were common knowledge throughout the galaxy. But Taran, as always, said nothing. The trials began on Simulation World Theta 9, a planetary training ground, built to mimic the deadliest natural conditions across dozens of worlds. Gravity fluctuated between 6 and 9 standard units. Temperatures swung from blistering heat to freezing winds. Every sound, every scent could mask danger. Competitors were given basic equipment: water filters, environment suits, and scanners. Survival required gathering resources, building shelter, and reaching the extraction point within 72 hours. The moment the dropships opened, chaos erupted. Participants rushed into the forests, splitting into factions. Lyra moved gracefully through the terrain, her crystalline armor refracting sunlight, guiding her small team toward a cave system. Terran walked alone. Lyra spotted him from afar, carrying no scanner, no advanced gear, just a simple pack slung over his shoulder. He moved with quiet purpose, scanning the tree line, not like a scientist, but like a hunter. By the second night, the trial had claimed half the competitors. One by one, distress signals flared in the sky. students collapsing from exhaustion, poisoning, or fear. The gravity shifts were relentless, pressing bodies into the ground before suddenly releasing them. Even Lyra felt her crystalline skin starting to crack from stress. She found shelter in a ravine. Exhausted, she tried to build a heat emitter, but her energy cell failed. The temperature plummeted fast, and her hands began to tremble. So cold, she thought, curling up inside her cracked armor. Then, from the darkness, a flicker of orange light. Lyra blinked. A fire. She followed it weakly and froze. There, inside a natural stone cave, sat Taran. His uniform was torn, his face smudged with dirt, but his eyes burned bright with calm focus. Around him crackled a small campfire, made from local fungi and resin. An impossible feat, since nothing on Theta 9 was supposed to be flammable. He looked up, then gestured to the warmth. "Sit," he said simply. Lyra hesitated. How did you light that?" He grinned faintly. "Same way we did 1,000,000 years ago. Friction. Fire's fire." She wanted to snap at him, to maintain her superiority, but exhaustion overpowered pride. She sat beside him, feeling the warmth seep through her armor. For a long while, neither spoke. Outside, alien winds screamed across the terrain. Finally, she asked, "Aren't you afraid?" Taran poked the fire. "Fear's useful. It tells you you're alive. We just learned not to let it drive." Lyra studied him quietly. His hands were steady, his posture relaxed. While she had used every advantage her advanced species could offer, this human relied only on what he carried. And somehow, he was thriving. "How are you not freezing?" she demanded. "Your physiology shouldn't survive this." He finished for her with a faint smile. "We weren't supposed to survive Earth either." When the extraction signal finally sounded the next morning, Lyra and Taran were among the only two who made it to the rendezvous point. She was limping, her armor cracked, her psionic energy drained. Taran walked beside her, tired but calm, carrying the body of a fallen competitor over his shoulder. When the results came in, the Academy buzzed with disbelief. First place, Cadet Taran Holt. Species, human. Second place, Cadet Lyra Viol. Species, Vorthian. During the debrief, the examiners questioned Taran about his methods, his resource use, his survival techniques, his psychological stability under stress. His answers were simple, almost unsettlingly so. Adapt, observe, endure. Lyra stood in the back, watching him as the judges praised his composure. For the first time, she didn't see a primitive. She saw someone evolved by war, shaped by hardship, refined through countless generations of survival. When the crowd dispersed, she approached him quietly. "You shouldn't have won," she said softly, though not unkindly. "The conditions were built to kill." Taran met her gaze. "So was my home planet." The word struck her harder than she expected. The realization came slowly. Maybe that was what made humans different. They didn't conquer environments by overpowering them. They endured them until the world bent first. And as she stood there under the artificial stars, Lyra Viol, the proud heir of the Vorthians, felt a flicker of something new toward the quiet human she once mocked. Not pity, not curiosity. Lyra Vale had always believed she knew fear. She'd faced battle simulators that tested her reflexes against plasma fire. She'd walked through Vorthian psionic trials, where her mind was flayed by illusion and self-doubt. But none of that compared to the quiet, cold terror she felt now. Sitting alone in her dorm room, staring at her datapad as it decrypted forbidden files about Earth. It began as simple curiosity. After Taran's victories in both the strategic simulation and the unified trials, whispers spread through the academy. Professors spoke his name in cautious admiration. Some students began to imitate his minimalist methods. abandoning their over-reliance on technology and psionics. Others feared him. Lyra needed to know why. The official galactic database told her little. Earth, Class 12, Death World. Population, human. Observation restricted by Council Order 3.19. Hazard Index, extreme. That was it. No cultural archives, no planetary maps, not even a historical summary. It was as if the galaxy had collectively decided to forget the planet ever existed. But Lyra Vale was not one to obey limits. Her status as the daughter of the Vorthian matriarch gave her access to classified channels, ones few dared to open. She slipped past firewalls, decrypted forgotten files, and accessed a section labeled Earth Historical Quarantine Records. The first file opened to a grainy video. A storm-torn battlefield. Soldiers. Human soldiers. In mismatched armor. Faces streaked with mud and blood, charging through fire. Above them, massive alien ships blotted out the sun, unleashing plasma storms that scorched the Earth. And yet, the humans kept advancing. Their weapons were crude compared to galactic standards. Ballistic projectiles, chemical explosives, but their movements were terrifyingly relentless. A line of text blinked across the bottom of the footage. Battle of Ganymede, 2641, estimated human casualties, 97%. Objective, achieved. Lyra's crystalline fingers tightened around the datapad. 97% losses, and they won. She clicked the next file. It showed a barren landscape, littered with burning husks of alien ships. The report read, Zarth Dominion invasion. Entire fleet annihilated upon Earth approach. Cause, unconfirmed. Hypothesis, planetary countermeasure weaponry, biological or nanite-based. Her breath hitched. The Zarth Dominion had been one of the oldest known empires. Wiped out without explanation. Could Earth have been responsible? She scrolled faster now, file after file revealing the same horrific pattern. Wars that should have ended humanity, but didn't. Disasters that would have erased other species, but became mere lessons for them. Nuclear winter, recovery time, 60 years. Global famine, population stabilized through adaptive agriculture. Bioplague outbreak, immune, adaptation achieved within 4 generations. Ocean, acidification, resolved via planetary scale reclamation. Systems. Every tragedy on Earth ended not with extinction, but evolution. Lyra's mind reeled. They don't just survive, she whispered. They adapt by breaking. And then she found the final file, the one the system warned her not to open. It was labeled simply, Project Paradox, Earth Defense Records. The feed began with an alien fleet, hundreds of ships, sleek and massive, descending toward a blue-green planet. Their energy readings were immense, their confidence palpable. The transmission switched to static, then to chaos. Ship after ship exploded mid-orbit. Weapons malfunctioned. Engines shut down. The fleet's internal AI systems turned on their own operators. Within minutes, the entire armada had been obliterated. Only one line appeared on the screen afterward. Estimated enemy casualties, 99.7%. Human losses, classified. Lyra sat frozen. Her heart, if the Vorthian equivalent could be called that, thudded painfully in her chest. The quiet student she had mocked came from that world. Her datapad beeped. A new message from him. Curiosity's a dangerous thing, Lyra. Some archives are sealed for a reason. Her blood turned to ice. She looked up, half expecting him to be standing there. But the message vanished, deleted from existence. The next morning, she found Taryn sitting at their usual lecture hall desk, calmly reading a data scroll as though nothing had happened. She hesitated before approaching. "You knew I'd look," she said quietly. He didn't glance up. "Everyone does. Curiosity's how your species evolves, right?" Her voice wavered. "I saw what your planet did. The wars, the destruction, the resilience. How do you live like that?" "Hi." The chamber of the Galactic Academy fell into absolute silence. For a heartbeat, it seemed as if even the air had been stripped from the room. The screen still flickered with the holographic images Jalen had just displayed. Images of blue oceans, vast forests, and monstrous storms that raged with unrelenting force. But more than that, the feed had shown something else. Something that made even the most warlike species in the galaxy hesitate. Humans thriving on that world. Liara's eyes were fixed on the display. Her breath trembled in her chest. She had thought Earth was merely a forgotten colony, a place barely above a wasteland. But what she saw defied everything she knew about survival. Tornadoes that could crush starships. Predators with teeth like plasma blades. Volcanic eruptions visible from orbit. And humans lived among them as if it were normal. Jalen stood before them all, calm and unshaken. His voice was steady, but there was an edge to it, one that carried the weight of generations of struggle. "You mock me for my origin," he said, turning his gaze toward the assembly of alien students, their proud crests and shimmering scales now drooping in discomfort. "But Earth made us what we are. We didn't evolve in comfort. We endured. We fought a world that tried to kill us every single day, and we won." The holograms changed again. This time, they showed humanity's long march through time, primitive tribes mastering fire, cities rising and falling through war, explorers sailing oceans of both water and space. The room watched in awe as images of ancient Earth weapons appeared. Bows, swords, tanks, and finally, the gleaming ships of the modern Terran fleet. Liara couldn't look away. Every image felt like a strike to her pride. She remembered every time she had called Jalen soft, fragile, or primitive. Now she saw the truth. These humans weren't fragile. They were tempered, like metal forged in an endless storm. When the last image faded, Jalen deactivated the projection and turned toward Liara. There was no anger in his eyes, only quiet disappointment. "You wanted to know the truth about my earthly origin," he said. "Now you know, my people aren't gods, but we learned to live where others would have died. That's our legacy." The silence broke as the professor, a massive feathered being from the Ivorian species, rose from his perch. His voice was low, almost reverent. "Your presentation, Mr. Jalen, has redefined what I thought I knew of human evolution." Even the usually arrogant Southern students, known for their warrior culture, lowered their eyes in respect. One of them, his scaled skin shimmering red, muttered, "To survive a world like that, it's no wonder your kind spread among the stars." Liara stepped forward. The weight of guilt pressed against her chest until she couldn't breathe. "Jalen," she said quietly, her voice trembling, "I mocked you because I thought humans were weak, but I see now that you were forged by strength we can't comprehend." Jalen gave a faint smile, not one of pride, but understanding. "It's all right," he said softly. "You couldn't have known. Most of the galaxy doesn't." He looked at her then, eyes reflecting the faint glow of the holograms. "But now that you do, remember it. Don't mistake kindness for weakness, or patience for fear. Humans may smile, but it doesn't mean we've forgotten how to fight." Those words lingered in the air long after the class ended. Later that evening, Liara found herself standing in the academy courtyard beneath the artificial stars. She looked up, finding Earth's location on the galactic map, a small blue world orbiting an unremarkable yellow star. And yet, she felt an odd chill knowing what that tiny world had produced. Jalen approached quietly beside her. Neither spoke for a moment. The silence between them wasn't awkward anymore. It was heavy with understanding. Finally, Liara said, "Your planet, it changes how I see everything. The Council calls worlds like yours death worlds. But maybe that's why humanity is different. You were born from death, yet you create life everywhere you go." Jalen looked up at the same stars. "That's what Earth taught us," he said. "No matter how harsh the world, no matter how strong the storm, we endure." Liara turned toward him, eyes softer now. I'd like to see Earth one day." He smiled faintly. "If you ever do," he replied, "it will see you first, and it will test you. But if you survive it, you'll never fear anything again." The stars above shimmered like distant fires. Liara knew then that Earth wasn't just a planet. It was a crucible, a place that burned weakness away and forged something the galaxy had never truly understood until now. And standing beside the quiet human boy she once mocked, she finally realized the truth about his earthly origin. Humanity didn't come from a world meant for life. They came from a world that tried to kill them, and they thrived anyway.